police sergeant who exhibits a kind of overzealousness in his duty, always wanting to prove his loyalty to the white man. His actions sometimes appear unwarranted or even excessive. Nnamdi, Udeze, Enora, and Ibe, Udoji's self-appointed counselors. Udoji asks them to be his eyes and ears in the community, to compensate them for their work. He exempts them from all levies and compulsory labor. Their work turns out to be that of leaking information about the people to enable Udoji continue his selfish exploitation of the people. Udoji is soon to express his disappointment at them when they fail to report to him the planned visit of the people to Sir Padla. The play. Udoji is a historical drama which depicts the clash of cultures which occurred when the white men first arrived on the shores of eastern Nigeria to further their colonial rule over Africa. The strangeness of the people's way of life and world view as necessitated the white colonial administrator, Sir Padla, to appoint a warrant chief from amongst the people, who will serve as an administrative bridge between him and the people of Ndiago. This would enable Padla to rule the people indirectly. The first mistake that Padla made was to appoint into the naval office an unpopular fellow, who was also a son of a rapist. As if this was not bad enough, Udoji proves to be a corrupt man. He sees his new position as a platform to exploit the people and enrich himself. This he does by refusing to pay the people their wages and by imposing false levies on them. To succeed in his corrupt practices, Udoji enters into an alliance with the white surveyor, Mr. Backspoon, whose mission in Africa was to make money. The people are not happy with the development and rallied round Egwonu, the chief priest whom they see as a representative of the old order. Egwonu does not disappoint them as he takes their case before Mr. Padla. Padla tries to call Udoji and Backspoon to order, but seems too weak to take a stronger action against them. The decision of Udoji to sell to Mr. Shotson the communal land set aside by the village for victims of natural disasters and widows, etc., and to Reverend Cross the land at the village square proved too much for the people to bear, and they revolted and toppled the new system. The moral of the play is that when a people are united, they will always succeed against their enemies. Another lesson in the play is that the imposition of leaders on a people brings out the worst in them. The work is also a critique of the African elites who connive with foreigners to shortchange their own people. Finally, unlike the Chinua Achebe, things fall apart, where the colonial system defeated the African traditional system. In Udoji, the reverse is the case. Analysis. Udoji is a magnificent play in the tradition of Nigerians' evolution as the state from the colonial encounter to independence and governance by indigenes, from warrant chieftaincy to presidential system. All the vagaries of power tussle are underscored with prominence of roles to women as wives in a manner that reminds a reader of plays like Ezinta Eze, Cassava Ghost, F. Young Johnson's Not Without Bones, and J.P. Clark, Becker de Ramos, The Wives' Revolt. Charles Wadigwe underlines every character with his robust humor, as already established in his 11th play anthology of drama called The Bride and the Cake, where characters range from area boys to business tycoons in their corruptibility and military adventure, into local politics, such as the likes of Ibong Nda has in Kakigbada. Critical context. Charles Wadigwe is a versatile scholar of theater and its practices in all ramifications. He is well versed in technical theater and has had plays performed on stage and on television with a special logical trademark of vision, pep, and deep scholarly artistry that has won him prestigious awards for excellence. Kalu Uka. Wedlock of the Gods, author Zulu Sofala, 1935 to 1995. Principal characters: Ogoma, a stubborn young widow, aged about 20 years, forced by her parents to marry Adigun, her deceased husband. She is childless and in love with another young man, Uloko. Against tradition, Ogoma, still mourning her husband, is impregnated by Uloko, who promises to marry her. Despite opposition, Ogoma insists on keeping the illicit pregnancy and marrying Uloko, even though she is expected to be inherited by Adigu's brother to produce children for the family. Uloko, an impetuous and resentful young man in his mid-20s, he is passionately in love with Ogoma but lacks the means to pay the bridal wealth demanded of him by Ogoma's father. Consequently, he loses Ogoma to Adigu, who is rich enough to pay the dowry. Uloko becomes bitter with society and refuses to marry any other girl. Upon Adigu's death, Uloko revives his illicit affair with Ogoma, who gets pregnant for him. But Uloko's plan to marry Ogoma and keep the baby is met with stiff resistance. Odigbe, a fiery-tempered widow in her mid-40s, she is the mother of Adigu. She has a sour relationship with Ogoma, her daughter-in-law. Odigbe strongly suspects Ogoma of having a hand in Adigu's death. Hence, the love affair between Uloko and Ogoma and the resultant pregnancy becomes a confirmation of Odigbe's suspicion. On a presumption that the lovers have murdered Adigu to have their way, Odigbe decides to avenge her son's death, but her revenge mission ends in a multiple tragedy for the three of them. Ibekwe, his Ogoma's father and a poor peasant who needs money to cure his sick son. Having received no help from his kinsmen, Ibekwe marries off his daughter to a rich suitor, Adiku, to raise money for his son's medical treatment. This act strains his relationship with Ogoma, who feels betrayed, whereas Ibekwe blames fate and his miserly kinsmen for his woes. Ibekwe exhibits helplessness in critical situations, even at the death of Ogoma. Nneka, she is Ogoma's mother, still in her late 30s. Nneka loves and supports her husband Ibekwe and desires to save the life of her ailing son. Thus, she supports the forced marriage of Ogoma to Adiku. This strains her relationship with Ogoma, and their discussions end up in confrontations. Nneka supports traditional norms and customs and tries to convince Ogoma to accept cultural practices demanded of her as a childless widow. Nneka hates Uloko and blames him for the crisis and disgrace that befell the Ibekwe family. The play. Two young people, Ogoma and Uloko, fall deeply in love and pledge to get married. But their dream suffers a serious setback when Ogoma's brother falls sick and needs money to save his life. Being a poor peasant, Ogoma's father Ibekwe decides to give Ogoma in marriage to an affluent suitor, Adigu, to enable the family use the bridal wealth and cure their sick son. However, Ogoma rejects Adigu and insists on marrying Uloko. Incidentally, Uloko is also poor and unable to pay a reasonable bridal wealth to help in the treatment of Ogoma's brother. Consequently, Ogoma is forced to marry Adiku, but in a twist of fate, Adiku falls sick and dies after 3 years of childless marriage with Ogoma. This provides an opportunity for Ogoma and Uloko to rekindle their love affair. However, as a childless widow, Ogoma is traditionally expected to mourn her deceased husband and remain in ritual seclusion for 3 months. Thereafter, she should be inherited by Okezie, her husband's brother, as the custom of leviration demands. Hence, Ogoma's love affair with Uloko immediately after her husband's death is considered a taboo. The matter is aggravated when in the 2nd month of mourning, Ogoma gets pregnant for Uloko. In a few days, the scandal spreads across the community, thereby making a suspicion Odigbe to affirm that her son Adiku was deliberately killed to enable Ogoma marry Uloko. On their part, Ogoma and Uyoko, refuse to see anything wrong in their relationship. Instead, they ascribe the turn of events to Providence, which has destined them to marry each other. While accusing her father of giving her away for material gains, Ogoma refuses to be inherited by Okeze and pledges her love to Uyoko, who promises to marry her. Odigbe, believing that her son was killed by Ogoma, seeks revenge. In the ensuing
reflected in the 3 months ritual celebration. seclusion, or social excommunication required of Ugomo as a widow. This is capped by the tradition of levation that permits a man to inherit his late brother's wife without her consent. Ugoma's rejection of this traditional obligation is marked by a renewed love affair with Uloko in apparent resistance to the demands of custom and tradition. In fact, the principal characters in the play are locked in some forms of conflict in apparent advocacy or resistance of traditional obligations. Ugoma's father, Ibreke, feels that his kinsmen are traditionally obligated to support him financially in the quest to call his ailing son. The failure to do this left him with no choice than to marry Ugomo out to a well-to-do suitor. The contravention of customary norms and injunction by Ugoma is regarded as taboo, a sacrilege that demands ritual ceremonies to cleanse the polluted land. Obige's quest for vigilance invariably an attempt to enforce tradition and maintain cosmic equilibrium. In contrast, Ugomo tries to break laws from the shackles of such traditional norms and values that she considers oppressive and antithetical to her desire for self-determination. Critical context. Structurally, Wedlock of the Gods is a play in 3 acts with linear plotting. The dramatic actions show a fast-paced progression of incidents. Most of the actions dovetail one another as they happen within the same day or the following day. The chain of theatrical events within the play presents a logical sequence of actions and reactions which become complicated as the plot progresses toward the climax and ultimate denouement. In the first act, the date of Adigu and illicit pregnancy of Ogoma are revealed. However, these dramatic events are established as previous actions as the audience did the witness and the actors but only get the information through the dialogue of the characters. Nevertheless, they set up some chain reactions that propel the play's development. The second act presents some of these reactions from the standpoint of various family members, and the futile attempts to resolve the conflict merely end up in counter recriminations. In the third act, the conflict aggravates into a crisis as the tempestuous ODB exerts her revenge and murders Ogoma. In a coming straight response, Oloko takes revenge, kills ODB, but commits suicide as well. The tragedy of Ogoma and Oloko is symbolically the triumph of tradition as the parties of the unwholesome love affair. The forbidden fruit of their union and the murderers all play the supreme sacrifice to cleanse the polluted land, thereby paving the way for a new beginning. From a moral perspective, in Wedlock of the Gods, Sophia appears to highlight the negative impacts of some tradition on the individual and collective freedom and existence of young people, but also condemns the tendency of people to take laws into their hands instead of following traditionally established processes of attribution and conflict resolution. From a gender standpoint, the prevailing customs appear unfavorable to the woman, who is presented in the play as a pawn on the chessboard of practical culture and tradition. Although there are women such as ODB and Ogoni who support the status quo, it can be argued to the overbearing dictates of an entrance culture. Hence, the date of the 3 vanguards of tradition and anti-tradition does not bring any paradigm shift in the order of things. The cultural norms that culminated in the conflict in the play remain unchanged, while the playwrights, following the conventional trend of poetic justice, ensured that the protagonist and antagonist pay for their deeds. The play has a simple plot, which almost became melodramatic at some points, particularly in the handling of events. within Ogoma's room. For instance, the catching of Ogoma and Uloko in the room by ODB, even though there is an inner room and those appears premeditated to enable the plot's progress to the next level. Similarly, the relatively easy way in which Uloko found the hidden poison to also commit suicide is equally unrealistic. Ogoma should have kept the poison beside her body as she lies down in pain. There is also an apparent influence of the classical tradition of playwriting on Sophora's composition of the dramatic plot. Following the classical Greek tradition, violence was executed off stage and then reported by a character using blood-stained cloths as evidence. Again, there was a noticeable effort to complete the entire dramatic sequences as quickly as possible, but this could not be actualized within one revolution of the sun as the Greek did, and this could be attributed to the traditional African norms and dispute resolution, which acquires intervention and careful attribution by elders and various interest groups. These processes are not traditionally executed in a hurry, and any reflection to a contrary will have compromised the cultural realism of the play. There is some thematic parallels between Sophora's Wedlock of the Gods and Sharekeepers, Romeo and Juliet, both featuring the now popular scenario of boy meets girl, boy-girl fall in love, families resist marriage, and the boy-girl die, while pledging their everlasting love. However, whether Sophora's Wedlock of the Juliet of the Gods could be regarded as a Nigerian adaptation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, as some critics allude, remains a polemic debate among theatre scholars. Another critical point in Sophora's Wedlock of the Gods concerns the use of language. In the play, the dramatists exercise considerable care in the diction in line with traditional norms of taste and decency. The language is simple, liquid and licit, and the dramatic exploits indigenous linguistic heritage, such as proverbs and idiomatic expressions. For instance, the word sex was never mentioned in the play, yet the play is full of allusions to sexual intercourse and its consequences, which constitute the conflict in the play. Instead, the dramatic uses phrases such as opening the door, letting in, to refer the sex acts between Ugoma and Uloko that result in the controversial pregnancy. Such expressions are also found in the handling of some other issues in the play, and those reflect the traditional approach to language usage, even when conflicts are being enacted. What Mama Said, Otto, Taste or Umi, 1955, type of work, play, type of plot, the disempowerment of rural women, time of plot 2001, local, Rivers Bayelsa, coastal region of Niger Delta, fictional state of Sopherland. Principal characters, Imo, a 27-year-old niece of Pipeline is an unemployed school leaver who goes into a militant force in the People's Movement. Oshimi is a 43-year-old widow and leader of the market women, with her unemployed, restless children and militant youth. She takes strides in leading her people's struggles for change. Cross River, with her friend Oshimi and militant youth. The 43-year-old widow and mother led the market when women and the people struggle. Omi is the 23-year-old rebellious daughter of Oshimi and mistress of the foreign oil director. Although well educated, she is unemployed. Worse still, she feels rebuffed by her white master, Oshina, and then goes into the beacon of her people's revolutionary struggle for change. Hadeja is a 20-year-old unemployed daughter of Oshimi and younger sister of Omi. A good friend of Imo, she works as a hawker sailor and plays a leading role in the struggle. Yobo is the government official. He plays the role of police officer 1. Pipeline is a traditional chief who is in close alliance with Yobo and Oshina. He plays the role of general. Bornu is an unemployed youth. He plays the roles of police officer, three gods, prosecutor, old man, and priest. Ipoba, also known as the bandit boy, is Oni's lover and Cross River's son. He takes a job as one of Ocean's security guards wine. He plays the role of police officer, two jobless man and fuel attendants. The play. What Mama Said is a play which has benefited from a Ford Foundation research grant. It centers on the effect of national and global oil politics on the lives of women, youth, and the impoverished rural Nigerians. What Mama Said, the play has 12 movements with an epilogue, A Nation in Custody. It opens with a prologue with characters coming on stage to distribute costumes to other characters on stage to change into their roles. While others set up the stage, they quickly hold hands, form a human chain or shield as they continue in their vibrant dance, pounding the earth with their feet. Suddenly a loud explosion shatters their worlds. Chaos breaks loose and the characters scream and flee in all directions. Functions into the first movement that takes place in a hot afternoon at the right side of the market square in GRA, Oil Club. Reveals and powerful allies Oshena, the foreign director of the Oil Club, Yobe, national government official of oil, the pipeline traditional chief, watching the television for news and at the same time playing a game of Monopoly. The man remains unmoved until the television shows some angry mob protesting. We can't wait. We won't, enough is enough. We can't wait. We won't wait. Mama, what Mama Said, 23. This is the beginning of the riot and protest in the play. In movement 2, Omi and Imo have joined the crowd of waiting hustlers gathering to buy fuel and kerosene at the barrel fuel petrol station in the market square. As the long waiting and chatting continues, Omi displays some of the toilet rolls, soap and other household items she is taken from the villa, and now shares them with her friend. This movement reveals several types of exploitation, especially sexual exploitation. In movement 3, Imo joins the chattering and hustling of the mob behind the barricades, leading to the fuel pump with pushing and cursing one another as is usually the case, hence everyone struggles to get closer to the fuel pump. Imo pushes her way through the teeming crowds, pumps and plays with the empty fuel loss. The fuel attendant comes with Yobe and a police officer. He pumps out air and tells the overwhelming crowd, "See, no fuel, no kerosene, go away." The people defy this order. In movement 4, at Swilit, the market square is empty except for Imo in combat attire. She crosses, pacing up and down between the marketplace and the GRA or Oil Club Hadejia. A local appears, sailors appears, and with her fruit basket, exhausted but graceful and dignified in her slow march to the GRA Oil Club. Other activity involving more characters was displayed. In movement 5, Oshena receives Bornu peace at the residence. Omi appears at the gate and Oshena feels uneasy, but disregards her because of his important guest. They discuss the native women who are no longer ignorant, but wiser now. Bornu peace, native woman, they have changed a lot, used to be a lot different. Issues on the provision and corruption are revealed. In movement 6, Oshena and Yobe are discussing and singing some sensitive documents before they cited Oni and disappeared into the house. While this is on, Ipoba and another fellow come to gate and struggle to come in, but Oshena signals his bodyguard to arrest Ipoba, who screams, "I no do anything, I no be thief. Now only job I want, now only food I dey find. I beg, bros, help me beg am, beg Olibo for me. Now no I beg, I dey beg." What Mama says, while the other youth runs up, the workplace of the indigenous, and the exposition of young females are revealed all through the movement. 7 takes place at the same scene, the GRA Oil Club. It shows the passion of 7 Oceana who advertises for a new gas. The angry mob invades the premises of the government officials, chanting and pleading for help. But the government officials remain adamant. The youth sees themselves with potential for unity. They lament on their happiness, a character voice to lament. That's why we poor people, man or woman, must join us together to fight our common enemies. These rich and powerful people have so make una forget wetin we dey between una, man, woman, and begin today. They work together for all. What Mama said. Movement hates the peace on me, and I love Ipoba, who sneak it into the GRA Oil Club and grab Ocean's briefcase loaded with several things. They wear his coat and went into hiding. Ocean returns with his men to continue with their meeting, but are very uneasy with the environment. Suspicion abounds, hence the silence. They recount on the people's poverty and plan, new ways of the people's wealth. Oceana said, yes, they are come to fame. Bravo. Suffering, Africa's other name. Yobe another culprit wasn't the matter in his statement. It doesn't take much, just something. If only we had appeared to be doing something. In movement, now Imo takes the responsibility to start the struggles as she goes to the market square and mobilizes other women to rise to the challenge. The more proceeds to GRA Oil Club, Imo calls for unity. They resolve to unite, forming 2 circles of the age grades, the young and the old. They reject their leaders as stated through the chorus of women. We have no leaders, away with leaders, away with leaders. They are ready for any action. In movement 10, the government officials are beginning to feel the impact of the native switch against injustice in the land. The pet dog of Oshana is killed. He is extremely angry about it, and it is ready to kill the offenders. They value a pet's life more than human life. Oshana and his men tighten security in their environment, making the place inaccessible to indigenous. Movement 11 reveals an emergency cabinet meeting in a corner at Oil Club. The women attacked the director and all the other officers they felt were responsible for their suffering. Yobe and all the other learners, what a shame. They got the deputy director, pipeline lamented. My brother, see, regular. This woman, one said, imagine blasted villagers want to hold the entire nation to ransom. Just imagine that. The lament over the women's actions all through the movement. Movement 12 dramatizes a more intense protest by the women and youth. The electricity at Ocean's residence has been cut off by the protesters. The attack is more intense as this state is Oceana declares. They are coming and finished. Oceana tells Yobe, hold me. The commotion continues to the end where Oni, Imo and Ipoba are arrested and taken to the court. The epilogue of the play dramatizes the court sections. The old narrators and their men try to defend their action against the villagers, and the villagers speak out their minds asking, is poverty a crime? The villagers are ready to fight for their rights, hence they ignore Oceana's preaching of fake dialogue. Imo speaks the mind of the women. Thus, all we ask of you is just to live with dignity in life. And what is that these women and youths have always wanted? But no, in your own way, you stand in their way, in my way, in everybody's way, because you have the power and the money. Is it fair? Where did we go wrong? This summarizes the agitation of the women from the first movements to the last. The women went to be themselves. Analysis. What Mama said dramatizes a people exploited by the government and foreign oil workers, using the land of Nigeria, suffer land and youth camp as springboards. The characters are fictional, named after rivers or bodies of big and small water. The smaller water represents the youths who are more evolving in their changing role lives. The bigger ones remain fairly constant, even in their dynamic changes of courses. Sometimes, when the late characters are not involved and in an action, they join the crowds who are restless in their action, irrespective of the dominant role they play. They are like the swift currents of water that defy limiting boundaries. They embody and project the dynamic change of movements that transforms the life and consciousness of a people. Templed on by the powers of the British colonial heritage, who translates their indigenous local language they are very familiar with to standard English language. But the characters, at any given opportunity, deviate into their local language. Ozo and the Pidgin English. This is an attempt to differentiate the citizens' speech from that of the foreign oil workers. It is expected that Oshona will give them a trial, but he dismisses their statement spitefully. Yeri did not hesitate forces with Oshon when he stated, "Can't I trust them? Just a bunch of nuisance." This is a rebuff on a people who are willing and ready to serve to make a living. It further suggests that man is despotic and that the unwillingness of the foreign oil workers to listen to the indigenous constitutes looking down on exploitation and deprivation experienced by the women and youth in display. It carried out on them by their brothers, relations, uncles, and even fathers, who should protect them against invaders. Corruption and economic operation is the order of the day as the play reveals, right from the first appearance of the era. Directors, the languages and actions of aviation abound. For instance, the chief pipeline in a selfish manner convenes the government officials to rid the citizens of their monetary rights and to rape the young females, while some are into prostitution for survival. Then she said it and no vacancy revealed the same experience by the villagers who live in this oil-populated environment as greedy brothers. They rape and rape the people of the money and means for them to enrich themselves with the help of the middlemen, supposed representatives of the citizens. The activities of bribery at the oil pipeline by the chief pipeline in what Mama said and Ethiopia in them, she said, is another pointer of the negative experience by the indigenous. The play dramatizes the common mass experience in the Nigerian society
for 3 hours in that traffic. Don't care about yourself alone. Reach out to somebody. That man that needs help. READ2BUILD is a movement. READ2BUILD is not an event. We read to build libraries across rural communities in Nigeria, so that those that will go into those libraries to read will build their own lives and ultimately build the nation. That is the meaning of READ2BUILD. It is not an event, it is a movement. It's a movement that will long past my lifetime, because our idea, sir, is that there should be at least one library in each ward. A library should be walk distance away. I don't have to travel to go to the library. I must have library in my ward. Lagos State is one of the states, trust me, I'm not saying this to hype them. I've been around states in Nigeria. You can hardly find a comfortable